A Dogurai!
Today we going to review Dogurai.
Dogurai!
Dogurai.
Dogurai!
Can it just be us saying Dogurai for 10 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, it's already recording, so we can just roll with that.
Oh, God.
Welcome to another wonderful episode of DotSlashFrag. Today we're going to be reviewing
Dogurai.
Dogurai is an indie game that was released by the developer Hungry Bear Games. It is an action indie platformer. We'll be reviewing each game by its audio, gameplay, and visual aspects. Let's go ahead and start with audio.
I mean, there's not really a whole lot to the audio section of the game. Not saying that it's not great. I'm just saying pretty much I break it down into two subgenres of audio, which would be sound effects and like the level music. Also, I guess you could put the theme music or the title music in with the level music.
Yeah, I would say that the level music, I'm pretty sure there is a specific song per level that you go on. I think at certain points you hit a trigger and it actually cues like faster pace or slower pace music, which was actually really immersive. It felt really awesome to just be playing and all of a sudden the music ramps up and you're like, oh shit, I need to do something, you know, like there's a giant wall of lava chasing me, like it's time to go. Plus
just the overall theme of the music, they fit so well. It was just so like each level had beautiful music for it. The title screen had beautiful and had beautiful music. Like the music all around was just great. Like to a point where I didn't really notice it, which isn't a bad thing. Like I just like it matched so well that it didn't stick out, which was perfect for the game.
It didn't detract, it immersed.
Exactly.
Whenever you're going and you're fighting the enemies, some of the enemies have their own specific sounds, which helps you identify them, which was pretty helpful when I was playing through the game. You can tell whenever a shuriken's being thrown at you. You can tell when the tank's shooting a rocket at you, stuff like that. So it definitely was the entire package. It definitely just immersed you and helped you play the level.
Exactly. Like the sound effects and the music weren't to the point where they were too much, like a lot of games do. Like a lot of games will hint at like your sound effects will be like over exaggerated and like it'll detract from the game. Whereas I feel like this game just kind of like they were just there. They made sense. They were on time. The music it just all made sense. So if you had to give the audio of the game a rating from poorest, a 1, complete dog shit, to a perfect 10, like just a sexy 10, what would you rate it, Alex?
In the context of the game and the genre and the style that they were going for, which self-proclaimed on the description of the game says it's a retro style platformer, I would say in that context I would rate it a 10 out of 10.
Ooh, you're giving it the perfect 10, huh?
I would primarily based on the context of the game. Like obviously if you compare this to like Destiny is going to have higher fidelity, higher quality audio, right? But that's not what this game's going for. This game isn't going for giant scores that suck you in and all that jazz and have Paul McCartney on their album. This game's going for a retro feel game that has that retro audio and emulates that. And it does a perfect job at immersing you, which I feel like a lot of games fail to do. A lot of games have great audio, but they're great to the point where you're sitting there listening to it and noticing it and you're just like, yes, this is great music, where like in reality the audio should be something that's, you know, it's like the level design. You shouldn't only be focusing on the level design while you're playing a game. Yes, you should take all those aspects in and enjoy them, which I think we did very much. Like whenever we loaded in and we saw that there was a new color palette, we went crazy and we loved it. But then once we did that, we were immersed. It wasn't like we just sat there and only talked about that, right?
Yep.
Like everything went together well. And I think that from the context of it being a retro game, from me playing it personally and experiencing the audio and the sound effects, I would probably give it a 10 out of 10.
Honestly, I think you said pretty much everything I wanted to say plus some. And I completely agree with you on every topic, except that I would actually give the audio a 9 out of 10. Just detracting the 1 point because I did like how immersive the audio was in the game, how seamless it just integrated itself into the gameplay. The sound effects were perfect. They matched up. They didn't take you out of the game. The level music was beautiful. It just fit. Everything was so nice. It just fit. The only reason I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10 would be that there weren't any huge moments for sound effects or for the music itself. There weren't any big touching moments with like a serenade, or like there wasn't anything that like really wowed me with the audio.
There wasn't a "you saved the princess" moment in Zelda and like use the Zelda music.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy fuck. And now that song's in your brain forever.
Exactly. Like the music and the sound were perfect, but they didn't, at no point did they wow me. You know what I mean? It's hard to describe.
No, I totally understand. And, I agree to a certain point. It's very hard to give something a perfect score because nothing in life is perfect.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, these are all reflective on our character. Like that's, I mean, it's going to be different for you and me. So,
I will say to that point though, without giving spoilers, near the end of the game, there's a scene that's semi-race, and like the music does react to what's happening in the game. Yeah. So when that scene happens, you're like, oh shit, like I need to go fast, because the music changes the pace and the tempo and the tone, and it completely like aligns your brain with what you need to do.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like it was perfect and it matched. It just didn't. There wasn't a certain spot that I can look back on and be like, oh, that was a great moment for the music.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I can go on board with that. So next up, we're going to be discussing gameplay. The first thing that really sticks out about this game is it has a semi-tutorial in terms of it teaches you how to play the game without holding your hand.
It does it so perfect. Like so many games mess this up. The tutorial is such a seamless like piece of this game that like you don't realize you're going through a tutorial. Like for you and me, of course we know we're going through a tutorial because we've actually gone through the game design aspect of these games, and we've been through this. Like remember when we were designing our own game, we were like, tutorial, nah, we're not doing that. And we just tried to like integrate it in. Like I feel like that's ingrained in us, but I feel like the average player wouldn't realize that they're going through a tutorial.
It does it in a way where, it's like, oh, it gives you the big jump. And then you're like, oh, fuck, I got a double jump. You're like, sweet, that's fucking awesome. And then you go and you're like, there's a fucking samurai throwing shurikens at me. What the fuck am I supposed to do? And then, you press the B button and you fucking slash him. And you're like, this is amazing. I'm slashing the fucking samurai. And then they give you a long jump with the samurai at the end. And you're like, but the dude's throwing shurikens at me. How the fuck am I going to jump over while he's throwing the shurikens at me? And guess what? You jump over and you slice the goddamn shuriken in half. And you're like, holy fuck, I can slice the fucking bullets and shurikens in half. And you just, as you're going, it's building up this hype while it's teaching you and training you how to play the game. It's amazing. And it continuously does that throughout the game. You gain more insight into different techniques and how to improve upon how you're moving in the game. So like in one level there's ice with fans, and it like teaches you can run really fucking fast and jump across the world. And in some cases you can be bad like me and fall into the fucking abyss and die forever. And in some cases you can just hit that fucking stride and jump all the way across the world to the end, and there you go, you're a fucking natural born speedrunner.
Remember that one spot where you jumped up, there was like the thing that froze you, the fan sucked you over, and then if you didn't get unfrozen you fell down into a pit and died. I was like, that's such good hazardous placement.
Yeah, and it teaches you you're gonna get fucked up if you don't learn how to break out of the ice. And guess what? After the first time, you're like, can I break out of the ice? You spam all the fucking buttons on the controller, and you're like, wow, I can break out of the ice.
Yeah, and you figure out like this shit's gonna, like if you put yourself in these situations, you may have avoided an enemy but got frozen in the process. It's like you may have made the right decision for that, or you may have made the right decision for that scenario, but also up ahead that might not be the best way to go through it. Like it changes as you go through, which I really enjoy. I guess would tie into the difficulty of the game.
The difficulty is pretty on point. Normal mode's infinite lives. Hard mode is 6 lives plus infinite continues. A continue would be if you're halfway through the level and you lose all your lives, you have to start the level all the way over, but you maintain all of your progress throughout the story. I would say the difficulty curve, since they do such a good job teaching you in the tutorial how to play, and they continue that throughout the rest of the game, the difficulty kind of ramps itself up naturally, and it does a pretty good job at it.
Yeah, I don't think throughout the game that the difficulty got to a point where it got like ridiculous. There was no point where you felt overwhelmed by the difficulty of the game, like a lot of other games do.
There's some cases when you're fighting different enemies and bosses where the hitbox could have been more generous, specifically near the end of the game, which was a little frustrating for me personally. But as with any game or set of rules, you learn.
Alex, can I stop real quick?
Yep.
Whenever you're playing, did you ever feel like maybe you could just get good?
I hate you. I thought you were going to say something serious, but then I realized you're just average. So near the end, there's a particular fight where you slash the bottom of the enemy and you're clearly hitting them, but the hitbox doesn't register. So like personally, it kind of annoyed me at first, but once you realize that it's consistent and it's not just random, so like every single time you jump and hit in that spot, it's not a hitbox, and you realize that, oh, there's a set of rules in this game. Jump higher and hit, like don't stop jumping so low and hitting to the point where you think you're hitting, it's not inconsistent. So the fact that you can learn the rules and actually, beat it, I think is great. It's not like I wouldn't say it's a bug unless they personally want the hitbox to be larger, but I would say that, it's something that they probably did from a design standpoint.
Exactly.
To make the fight harder.
Yeah, I feel like that was more of like a design. Like they meant for it to be that way, so you couldn't just ease the boss. Like you had to jump, you had to. Because what you're talking about is the final battle, which I'm not going to spoil anything, but so for that battle where he's talking about where like you could jump and hit like the character, it felt like more of like a cheap hit, whereas the actual hitbox was placed where you had to put yourself in danger to get to it. So it wasn't just like, I'm just going to hop and hit him real quick and like one hit in. It's like you had to jump into a dangerous position to get the hit. So like you had to be more careful with when you were going to hit instead of just like, oh, I can get it quick, let me just get it. You had to think about all of your attacks, all of your placements, what his moves were doing at the time. That's leading into boss battles. Oh my god, the boss battles this game were amazing.
They were pretty awesome.
Honestly, I think the boss battles, I don't want to say they made the game, but really they were a pedestal. Like they were so good. The patterns in them they're very, akin to like the time of retro when there was a move set for each boss. Each boss had a move set. You learn that move set. You try to predict that move set. You try to learn it and get better at it and dodge. And like with some of this gameplay, you're gonna see me just getting absolutely shitted on. But I never felt cheated. I never felt like, oh, that was the worst experience ever. It was like, oh, well, that was one of his moves and I just fucked up, or that was a move I never seen, so let me learn from it. Yeah. And I really like that about the bosses is there was when you first encounter the boss, you're like, I don't know what to expect, so I'm going to try to lay low and figure out like his move set, see how he moves, see his patterns, which usually ended up with you getting just absolutely annihilated your first life. But once you learn this boss's moves, you learn his patterns, you learn how to bait the boss, which is amazing from a design standpoint. Like the boss positionings were just like you could force them into position where you had the upper hand, which was just, it was so good from a design standpoint.
It felt genuine and it felt like I had achieved something that wasn't just given to me. Like I learned from his movements, I made him do something, and then I overcame the fight and beat it.
Like the boss fights were so rewarding. After you got done beating a boss, you felt so good. You're like, ooh, like it's at the end of every level. So you're like, I just completed this section. I did it. I fucking struggled. I figured out the patterns for him. I'm the reason I beat this boss, which felt so good, so rewarding, so nice. But while we're on the topic of rewards, last topic I want to get on with gameplay. We played this game, our first playthrough, we spent 2 hours. It was 2 hours we did on normal first, just to get a run through. We went through the game, we beat it in 2 hours. We were like, okay, that was a fun game. Like, this was a good game. Then we realized that there was a little collectible for the game. We were like, well, let's see what happens when we do the collectibles. So we go through, get the collectibles, and the game rewards you. Not just like, oh, did you notice in this section we put like a smiley face because you did 5 extra hours of gameplay.
Oh, hey,
like the game actually,
you got an achievement. Yay!
Yeah. Like, the game actually rewards you for putting the time in to play the game, which was awesome. We went from spending 2 hours of this game to, we did a whole nother playthrough, which we beat in 1 hour and 15 minutes. And then we did a third playthrough, which we beat in 40 minutes. And we, like, by the time we were done with that third playthrough, like, we didn't feel like we were just like done with the game. We were exhausted with it. We didn't do that because we felt like we had to get all the achievements. Like, it felt like this was just like a reward. Like, oh, we're just going to go through and have some fun. And you get through the game, you're like, oh, I can do something else. I'm going to go through more fun with that.
Yeah, if you watch our playthrough, like, just the fucking giddy looks on our faces when we got to that point when we thought we were done, just to be sucked right back in to play another run, we're just like, oh my fucking God. Like, and the reason I rate it so highly is because I haven't played a game recently that has sucked me in after I've completed the gameplay loop. Typically when I complete the gameplay loop, I just move on to the next game and I'm like, whatever, like, that was a fun experience, great. Yeah. Like, we finished the gameplay loop and we're like, wait, like, there's possibly more, let's just see what it is. And then we did it, and like what it rewards you with and what it gives you sucks you into a new level, and then you finish that playthrough and you're like, there can't be more, and holy fuck, it pulls you in again. Yeah. And you're just like, what?
And it's never like a negative experience. It's always like, hey, we're gonna give you this, and you're like, oh man, this is gonna be so much fun, I can't wait to play this more. It's never like, oh man, they gave us this, now I feel obligated to go through and do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like when we were browsing games to play, like looking at the game, yeah, it looks amazing. It looks like a fun retro game, but most of those games that you pick up and play, you pick up and you play it once and you never play it again. You could have never told me that once we were picking this game up that we would have completed it 3 times in one session. Like, I would have never believed that.
I wouldn't have at all.
It's like 1:30 in the morning and we're like, let's roll it again. Like, why stop?
At no point did I feel tired of this game. Like, I was having fun the whole time throughout.
And that speaks, I think that speaks for itself, because, the playthrough we did was a ./spectate, which is, one of us plays and one of us, spectates and comments on the game. And like, Joey was just spectating the game for 5 hours, and
I wasn't even playing the game.
Yeah, he wanted more.
At no point did I do a movement. I was just watching Alex play the game, and we both were having a blast with it.
Yeah, it was great. Like, we can touch base specifically on those rewards at the end of the video, so people have a chance to back out before the spoilers. But like, once we talk about them, like, and you actually go through, like, I would highly suggest, don't stay for the spoilers. Don't listen to the rewards. Go play the game for yourself. Figure them out for yourself. The only tidbit we'll give you is to save you one run if you really want. Collect the collectibles. You're going to find a collectible. Make sure you collect them all. Yep. That will help you on your playthrough. That will help you get a little more rewards and incentivized.
And holy fuck, is it fun.
Oh, yeah. And like,
just trust us on that.
That's not even speaking to like the inner gameplay of each level, because we kind of talked about tutorial and difficulty ramping up, but like each level has its own unique quirks. Like, there's a level that gives you lava. There's a level that gives you those ice platforms that we talked about. So like, every level has its own quirks, and let's just say that there's one that's gonna blow your mind in so many different ways.
We flipped shit we honestly flipped shit when it came out. We were just a fucking screaming. It was so good.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
I give this game a perfect 10 in gameplay.
There is a bit of a learning curve to the controls. I think that they were trying to capture some of what made retro games fun, and that was like they didn't have the perfect seamless controls. So if you're watching the playthrough, you're gonna see a bunch of like me failing at double jumping. But you know, once you get in there and you learn kind of like how to move and how to navigate and platform inside of the world of Dogurai, I think that it's easy to look past that it might not be the smoothest controls, but I don't think that detracts from the gameplay at all. If anything, for me, it made it more challenging where like, sure, they could have given you like 20 more pixels, 10 more pixels on your jump height when you hit A, but that might have tossed the balance of the game and made the game too easy, right? I would agree in terms of 10 out of 10 for gameplay. I think that it's very rare for games to ever be perfect. That's not to say the Dogurai is perfect. I would say it's pretty much as close as you can get to perfect for me.
Yeah. I don't think the game is perfect per se. I think it's perfect in what it's trying to do, though. Okay. Visuals. I'm sorry if I'm going to take over on visuals. I absolutely adored the visuals of this game, whether it be the backgrounds, the character designs, the bosses, the enemies, just the whole atmosphere. This game was fucking gorgeous. I was huge into pixel art for a long time. I used to just go out and just doodle out pictures of pixel art constantly. It's been a few years since I've done any of it, but this game literally gave me the passion to go back. Like, I right now want to just go draw some pixel art. Like, that's all I want to do after playing this game.
They captured the Game Boy era pixel art perfectly. Like, if this was a game on the Game Boy, I would buy it. Like, I would probably buy a Game Boy just to play this game. It's that fun. It's that visually, aesthetically pleasing. You know, everything between gameplay, visuals, and audios, it just ties together seamlessly and perfect.
So every level in this game has a different background. I loved this simplistic design that he took for this. The artist, I'm going to ruin his name, Thiago Ariel Portela, did a fucking fantastic job. The levels look great. The characters look great. The enemies look great. The atmosphere is so nicely done. I love the simplistic design that he chose for this. Two that stuck out to me were the desert level with the sun in the back. Looked awesome, especially at a spoilerific part. And the water plant, which we have coined the hater plant, that level looked amazing too. The clouds in the back whenever you're jumping on top, oh my god, so good. So good. Hit me with a boss review, Alex.
What can I say? You got the goddamn death. You got the goddamn magician. You got the goddamn robots. You got the goddamn everything. No, but for real, the boss design was beautiful. From a strictly visual standpoint, they were very unique. One of the ending bosses, you know, might seem pretty familiar, you know, if you played other retro type games, but for the most part, the other ones were pretty unique. I was pleasantly surprised. There was a point where I got to the top where kind of like the camera is centered on you the entire time, and like your head peeks up and you see the boss, and like in the playthrough you'll see me literally stop in my tracks, and I'm just like, no, I'm not going up there.
And you're like, what is that?
I'm like, what is that? and yeah, it turns out the boss fucked me up. But you know, I learned from it. I got better.
Every boss is unique. You don't really get to a boss where you're like, okay, it's this jig again. Like every boss, you're like, okay, what is this? And what is he going to do to me? Yeah. Like every single one. The animations are so fluid.
On one of the later bosses, the green boy, his attacks and his animations were fucking amazing. They were beautiful.
Yes.
And like they added so much to the fight. Like you could easily fuck that up. You could do shitty animations and you'd be like, oh, whatever. But like he you know, he does one of his attacks and turns into something, and you're like, oh my god, like you're terrified.
So the boss that encapsulated this whole game for me, what I fell in love with, was one that we coined Katka, This boss was so much fun. It takes things that you had seen previously in the game and then flips them around on you. As a gameplay style for this one boss, amazing. Visually, fucking superb. In love.
It's almost like a lot of what they taught you on other fights throughout the game, this boss encompasses, but like then it builds upon it, and also the way it builds upon it and the animation style and the visuals that it uses to do that are just insane. Like in one of the parts of the fight, your brain just kind of melts and you're like, oh wait, this is happening, and you're like, this is awesome.
Break that shit. Visually, I can't say enough positive things about this game. This game scratched every itch that I had, plus some. The art style is amazing. The animations are beautiful. Character designs, boss designs, enemy designs, levels, title screen, fucking text, fucking everything. Everything visually about this game is fucking phenomenal. So I honestly can't. Can I give an 11? I don't think I can. Can I get an 11? Excuse me, boss. Can I put an 11? He says I can't put. It's going to have to be a perfect 10.
I would probably give it a 9 out of 10, specifically for those scenes where it was hard to see your character blending into the background. I think they did an excellent job of not leaving you on that screen for too long, but I do think that they could have maybe added a little bit of contrast between the background and the character.
So, Alex, comes down to the wire here. Scale from 1 to 10. You have to rate this game.
The game is amazing. Like we said, it's as close to perfect as you could be for a retro game that you would want to be playing on a Game Boy. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. He gives it a 10 out of 10. I have to give the game a 10 out of 10. I can't go anything less than that. It's not even a thought in my head. Matthias, Thiago, Rafael, all three of them kill it in every aspect of the game.
Yes, the final thoughts for this game are this. Easy to play, hard to master. Our experience was exhilarating from start to end. Hungry Bear Games pulls off what many AAA studios struggle to achieve. A truly refreshing 10 out of 10 hidden gem.
This has been Average Status
and Legend AF
with another DotSlashFrag reviews. Until next time.
Bye.
See you later.
Ciao.
Miss you already.
Goodbye forever. Dogurai.
Katka being a good guy. Ship that shit.
Dude.
Oh my god, I love that shit.
Dude,
I love that shit.
It's amazing, bro.
You can put that shit on a plate and make me eat it, and I love that shit.
Bro, you eating shit like Ron Burgundy?
I'd eat that shit all day, dude. I love that shit.